If you want to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar. Today is Wednesday, June 29th, and you are joining us for our webinar on subcontracting utilization. My name is Shonda Harris, and I am a BOS from the Columbus District Office of the SBA, and we are really excited about today's presentation. Today's webinar is a series, a part of a series, a preliminary webinar series for our Ohio Business Matchmaker event. You can notice my background says Ohio Business Matchmaker, and I can see that there are many on the call today that have joined us for webinars all throughout this month on a variety of subjects to help prepare you for the matchmaker. And so I'm sure many of you that have been on the webinars are definitely aware of what the matchmaker is, but for those of you that are new and you don't know, the matchmaker is our signature contracting event where we have many resource partners that come together that put on this event that allows small businesses an opportunity to gain entrance and learn about how to do business with government, local government entities, whether it's federal, state, city, or county. So if you're looking to expand and grow your business, expand your capital, your capabilities, your core competencies, government contracting is a great way to do that. So today, just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. Today's session will be recorded, is being recorded. The link to the recording is going to be posted in two places. The Ohio Business Matchmaker website, where you registered and you signed up for this webinar. There's a link up top for all of the previous webinars. So the link for the webinar, as well as the slides, will be posted there, as well as the Ohio University PTAC website. And so you can access those later if you'd like. Any other housekeeping items? It looks like it's a relatively small group today. So if our presenter is okay, we may make it a very interactive session. Initially, we were going to have two presenters, but we only have one. So we may make it as interactive as possible if we can. So as the presenter is going along, and if you do have questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat. Potentially, if the question is long or a little more detailed, we may allow you to come off mic, but it just depends. We'll just kind of play it by ear. Without further ado, I do want to introduce our speaker. Well, before I do that, I do want to say we are grateful that we're able to put on this event as a wonderful partnership, a collaborative partnership that we have with the Ohio PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They're actually running the webinar for this on Zoom. So we're grateful for Sharon Hopkins and her team and our statewide manager, our Ohio statewide manager, Mr. Joey Scott. We're grateful for their participation, the SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, the Ohio Department of Development, the Minority Business Assistance Centers, such great and wonderful partners, our federal, local, and state agencies. This is all a collaborative effort that we're able to put this on. So with that, let me go ahead. Again, our subject today is subcontracting utilization, and we have a wonderful presenter. I'm going to read her bio really quick. Miss Deborah Crumity. She is a commercial market representative, a CMR at the SBA. And of course, you'll learn a little bit more about what CMRs, who CMRs are and what they do. But I believe CMRs and PCRs, Procurement Center Representatives, are two positions at the SBA that are really instrumental in contracting, but a lot of people are not aware of who they are and what they do. So we're really grateful that Deborah here is with us today and is presenting. She is in the geographical region 4, the Office of Government Contracting in Chicago, Illinois, and she supports 10 Midwestern states. Other than 10 Midwestern states, other than small business prime contractors, to assure that small business concerns have the maximum practicable opportunity to participate in subcontracting awards consistent with its efficient performance. She's also worked at the SBA as a PCR Procurement Center representative. Ms. Crumity began her civil service career in the United States Navy. She retired as the Chief Petty Officer, and she continued her civil service in the federal contracting, and she's been in federal contracting since 2007 with the Department of Defense, Air Mobility Command, and Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, and has held various contracting assignments since that time. One of her major roles as a small business professional, acting director for the United States Transportation Command, it was in the Office of Small Business Programs, where she advocated for small business. Ms. Crumity has a Master of Arts degree in Procurement and Acquisition Management, Level 3 certification in contracting through Certified Federal Contract Management and through the National Contract Management Association, and a master's certificate in contract management. So without further ado, again, if you do have questions, if you can go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Crumity and let her take it from here. Deborah?
Yes, I'm here. Well, thank you so much, Shanda, for that wonderful introduction. And I just want to ask you, I'm to share my slides, correct?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So during this time, I just want to turn my camera on to say a quick introduction so you guys can see my face, but I'll go off camera when I present so that I won't have any connectivity issues. And how's my volume for everyone, Shanda?
It sounds really good.
Okay, great. So I'll go off camera and get my slides set up here, and then we'll get started. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes. And can you put it in presentation mode?
Yes, yes, I sure will. Just a second here. Okay, how's that?
Looks good. Thank you.
I apologize for the delay, everyone. As Shanda mentioned, I'm Deborah Crumity. I'm the commercial market representative for the SBA Office of Government Contracting Area Office 4. I've been serving as the commercial market rep since 2018, and before then I was a procurement center representative under the same area office. So today I'm going to just give you a quick overview of government contracting, the Subcontracting Assistant Program, a virtual introduction of the commercial market representatives, and a little bit of the roles of a CMR, and how you can locate subcontracting opportunities from various sources. Now I'll talk a little bit about subcontracting and small business utilization. And then basically, if and when you become a subcontractor, how important it is to know your subcontract agreement terms and conditions. So I'll start out with the SBA Office of Government Contracting, and then I'll lead into the SBA Subcontracting Assistant Program. So basically, you may ask the question, why a small business program? So a small business program was developed by law, and it was really to ensure that small businesses such as yourself receive a fair portion of federal acquisitions So basically, federal agencies have requirements. And so when they publish those requirements, there are laws in place that would ensure small businesses get a fair portion of those awards as prime contractors and also as subcontractors. But it's not just about the law. Small business is good for our economy, as you guys are aware. Small business is good business. So next we'll talk about the policy of prime contractors and subcontractors. It is a policy of the government to provide maximum practical opportunities. And a lot of you may be asking, well, what is maximum practical opportunities? But some have definitions, and in my mind, it is every effort to ensure that small businesses are receiving a fair share of the prime contracts based on their market research and their agency need. So the categories of those small businesses are small business, and then we have the veteran-owned small business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, hub zone, small disadvantaged business, and woman-owned small business. Now with the women-owned small business, there's another subcategory, the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. So that falls under the woman-owned small business program as well. So for subcontracting, concerns must also have the maximum practical opportunities to participate as subcontractors. And that could be from a small business prime contractor as well as a large business prime contractor. So that also applies to every federal agency that has a buying authority. And the subcontracting must be consistent with efficient contract performance. And I have some regulatory guidance listed at the bottom of this slide. So, after the presentation, you can go out there and take a look because they're public regulations. So I just want to give you a little, just a quick overview of the SBA Office of Government Contracting. Our mission is to assist you, small business, in obtaining a fair share of federal government contracts, as I mentioned earlier. So the SBA has contracts, subcontracts, and property sales. So the Office of Government Contracting headquarters is located in Washington, D.C. Under the headquarters department, SBA has 6 area offices located in the United States in its outlying areas. And we're supported by the SBA District Offices and regional offices. As displayed on the map, you can see that SBA Area 4 falls under 2 regional offices. We support the SBA Region 7, which is the Great Plains, and then Region 5, which is the Great Lakes. And those offices are overseen by a presidential appointed administrator. So within each area office, there is an area director and a deputy area director. Most of the area directors are placed amongst various district offices or in federally owned buildings, as well as sometimes at the federal activities. So the area director for Area 4 actually resides in Chicago District Office, and the deputy area director is right there at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Mr. Thomas Kruzmar, and he's also a PCR. So when we have information about federal requirements, we always get our management involved so that they're aware as to what is happening throughout their area. Now, within the area offices under the director and area director, we have various personnel positions. As Shanda mentioned earlier, we have procurement center representatives, commercial market reps, certificate of competency, and size specialists within that area office that works under the government contracting umbrella. Now, PCRs and COC specialists work with federal agencies, and they work hand in hand with the business opportunity specialists, especially for the 8A program, as well as other socioeconomic programs. We also work with our SBA resource partners, PTAC, and others to assist small businesses in acquiring that fair share of contract awards as primes. So the main concentration for us is that we work with the federal agencies when they have their acquisition plan. We do our market research so that we can help them determine their acquisition strategy. And we hope that it's a small business set aside, because that is the SBA's mission. So the SBA Cmrs, we work the post-award side of federal contracting. And what I mean by post-award is the contract is already awarded. So that is where the commercial market rep comes into play to make sure that small businesses are still receiving a fair share, but as a subcontractor versus a prime contractor. So we're sometimes engaged in the pre-award phase as well, when there is a subcontracting plan and we have to pull historical information or review the plan to make sure that it meets the required elements that's in the FAR. So every year, SBA works with each agency to set aside small business goals in the prime arena, as well as the subcontracting. So basically, it's like a historical report. The SBA look at, okay, agency, what you've done in the past year, and they decide what the goals are going to be going forward for the next year. So it's all a negotiated, communicated effort. And that's the same thing for subcontracting goals for federal agencies. The SBA, well, actually GSA has a reporting system. It's called the electronic reporting system. It's online. And so there is a standard report that's within that system that the SBA runs for every federal agency to see, what subcontracting dollars were awarded, by the prime contractors to each socioeconomic category. So it's a great tool for us to do our analysis and to ensure maximum practical opportunities for small businesses. So the subcontracting assistance program is a little bit different than prime program. The prime program actually works with statutory goals that are incorporated through Congress and made into law. But the subcontracting assistance program, the federal government awards billions of dollars in prime contracts for supplies and service to other than small business. Going forward after this, you may hear me say other than small business and large business. So they're really one and the same. They used to be just large businesses, but now a large business can be a university, nonprofit. So we classify it as other than small business. The subcontracting assistance program is comprised of the SBA Cmrs, who work to ensure that domestic small business concerns receive a fair share of federal subcontract awards. There is a proposed rule out. I don't know if it's final, but there may be opportunities for small business dollars for international awards, but there are some caveats to that, so don't quote me on that. But the purpose of the subcontracting assistance program is, again, to ensure that small business, small disadvantage, woman-owned small business, hub zone, veteran-owned, and service-disabled veteran-owned receive maximum practical opportunity to compete for and receive subcontracts from these other than small businesses that has a federal prime contract where a subcontracting plan was incorporated. Now, the only caveat to that is if the proposed total contract value or any amendment or modification to the contract exceeds subcontracting plan threshold. And the threshold, and I'll talk about it on the next slide, but it's $750 for service and $1.5 million for construction. And of course, the contract must have subcontracting possibilities for a subcontracting plan to be required. So now I talk a little bit more about the commercial market representative and our role. So the CMRs is 6 of us, a total of 6 of us. I believe we have part-time CMRs as well, but we have 6 primary CMRs. So I take this opportunity to introduce you to them virtually. There is a link on the slide where you can go to the SBA website to gather all of this information. But I just want to let you see who they are and the work that we do for you. So we have Area 1, we have 2 full-time CMRs, Christopher Sau and Jean Spillane. And then we have 2 part-time CMRs, Melinda Shin and Sandy Liu. In Area 2, we just heard our CMR. I think she's been on board about a month, and she comes from industry, so she has a wealth of knowledge from that aspect. And this is Rahel Molaline. And then in Area 3, we have a full-time and part-time CMR. Ms. Arnett Mayhew is full-time, and Gary Hurd is part-time. Area 4, you have myself. I'm the full-time CMR. And Area 5 and Area 6 also have full-time CMRs. Area 5 is Sophia Chow, and Area 6 is Janice Neates. Janice is also a part-time size specialist. So she sometimes get involved with pre-award as well as post-award. So the SBA CMRs, you know, a lot of people don't know about SBA CMRs. For a while, I believe for the last 2 or 3 years, the CMRs were sort of stagnated. We were doing everything behind the scenes. The work was still needed, but we just didn't have a lot of visibility with customers. But CMRs interact with an array of customers on multiple levels to achieve a variety of outcomes when performing compliance and advocacy. The majority of the CMR work is compliance and advocacy. So a lot of times you may see us at outreaches and you may not. But we work with the federal buyers. We work with prime contractors. We work with small businesses, all small businesses to include 8A firms. We also support the SBA staff at our headquarters level, our district offices, and also within the area offices. And we work with our resource partners, PTAC, sometimes SBDC, Women Business Center, and many more. Well, that's just a brief summation of our customers. So the SBA CMR and federal contracting, and this briefing, it only deals with federal contracting. It's not anything to do with state contracts. So the CMR only works with the federal contracting. So we counsel other small business on how to identify small business concerns. We counsel small business on how to market yourself to these large businesses. We conduct periodic reviews and compliance on prime contractors, you know, with their subcontracting plan to make sure they're compliant. Are they really doing what they say they're going to do when they negotiated and agreed to a subcontracting plan? We provide education and training to federal agency staff, as well as large business contractors regarding subcontracting plan requirements. And I must admit, subcontracting is a very sensitive subject right now because there are a lot of concerns with small businesses not receiving subcontracts and small businesses not getting any information back when they reach out to Prime. So there's been a lot of discussions about that. So we're really trying to make sure that we're on top of that. We monitor questions sent to the SBA Subcontracting at sba.gov. That is a subcontracting help desk that is maintained by the Subcontracting Assistant Program. The CMRs monitor that help desk, and we do it on a 2-month rotation. So I think tomorrow is my last day. I've been monitoring it for the last 2 weeks. And we get some very interesting questions that come through. So if you ever cannot reach, you know, one of the CMRs, if you send an email to that email address, I can guarantee you that you will get a response within 24 hours. So listed on the screen is a directory of CMRs. If you copy and paste that link to your web browser, that will bring up all of the CMRs with their phone numbers and email addresses. So now let's get into the importance of a prime contractor small business subcontracting plan and why it matters to you as a small business. So it
Deborah,
matters. Yes, yes.
be- before you go into that really quick, we have a question real quick in the
Okay,
chat. Actually two.
okay.
If someone was interested in contacting a CMR, do they have to contact the CMR in their region only?
Well, no, if they're interested in, it's best that they do just to establish relationships. But if they're interested in something in another region and the CMR is available, they can contact that CMR as well.
Okay, thank you. And a second question from Linda Burton. I believe you mentioned a database that showed how money is being spent on contracts.
Mhm.
Can you mention what that database is?
Yes, it is the Federal Procurement Data System. That is a data system that federal agencies use to for contract actions. So everything that they purchase is via that system. And there's also USA spending that you can find out about what the federal agencies are spending their money on. But a lot of times that system includes grants and other sources. But the Federal Procurement Data System is a tool that lists contract awards for federal agencies with buying activities.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that Federal Procurement Data System, FPDS, has now been rolled into SAM as
Yes,
one of the, and so individuals can work with their PTACs if they need to find out how to utilize that and how to access it.
yes, and how to run reports. I know that contractors can get registered for that system, but since it has been moved behind sam.gov, there may be some other, I don't know how they can register, but it should be explained, on that system, sam.gov.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we'll move along and talk about the federal subcontracting plan. A federal contract that exceeds $750,000 or $1.5 million for construction awarded to a large business must have a small business subcontracting plan. That is, if subcontracting possibilities exist. In addition to an explanation of the efforts a contractor will take to demonstrate a good faith effort, the small business subcontracting plan has dollars and percentage goals for subcontracting to all of these socioeconomic categories and small business as a whole. What I want to point out though, if for Department of Defense contracts, small business include qualified nonprofit agencies designated by the Committee for Purchase from people who are blind or severely disabled. It includes awards to an Alaska Native Corp or Indian tribe, regardless of the size or certification status. And that's only for Department of Defense contract. The small disadvantaged business includes awards to Alaska Native Corps or Indian tribe, regardless of their size or certification status as well. Now, the service disabled veteran-owned small business, in the Department of Veteran Affairs contracts, VOSB and SDVOSB subcontractors must be listed in the VA vendor information pages because the Department of Veteran Affairs does all of that certification for now. But I believe in the future, the SBA will take over that certification. And we'll probably be still using the same VIP, I'm not sure. But for now, that's how you would, a prime contractor would verify that they are a VOSB or SDVOSB, and that's only for VA contracts. In all the categories above, unless otherwise noticed, a firm may self-certify their size and socioeconomic status for a federal subcontract. And what that means is when a federal prime contractor has a subcontract requirement, the prime contractor must assign a NAICS code to that requirement so that if you, the small business, are interested in submitting an offer or a bid, you can self-certify that you are small in that, under that industry. So that's the main purpose of what I mean when you have to self-certify, unless the prime contractor has that they will accept a SAM.gov search and rep from your company, as long as it's accurate, current, and complete. So the federal subcontracting plan has 15 elements, but I listed some elements here that are very important to you, because when a prime has a subcontracting plan, they have to list a description of the principal types of supplies and services to be subcontracted. They have to list a description of the method used to identify potential sources for solicitation purposes. And just keep in mind, the subcontracting plan is just that, it's a plan. It's what the prime contractor believe they're going to do during a subcontract performance. During a prime contract performance, they believe that they're going to subcontract this portion of the prime contract to small businesses. The plan has to have an individual employed by the offerer who will administer the offerer's subcontracting plan. And we say offerer right now because subcontracting plans are submitted in the pre-award phase. It's usually submitted with their offer if the contracting officer requires that, or it may be submitted after they have been awarded the contract and before the contract is executed. So it just depends on what the agency requires. I believe back in 2017, we updated the subcontracting plan elements. It used to be 11, now it's 15. And the additional 4 is assurances that the offerer will make a good faith effort to acquire articles, equipment, supplies, services, material, or obtain the performance of construction work from the small business concern that it used in the preparation of its bid or proposal in the same or greater scope, amount, and quality. So what that means is if you are a small business and you are working with a large business and they have you help them prepare their bid. They list you by name for the various tasks that you're going to perform. And they also may list your company name on the subcontracting plan. Now, once the contract is awarded, any requirement for those tasks should be awarded to you in the same scope, amount, and quality. If not, then that's when you would be able to contact the contracting officer as well as the prime. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Another assurance is that the offerer will pay its small business subcontractors on time and in accordance with the terms and conditions of the underlying contract. And I have the file references here that you can go and read about all of the 15 elements. The FAR 52219-9 is a provisional clause as well as a contract clause. So you will see that FAR clause in a solicitation as well as a contract award, because they have to have the provision, meet all the 15 elements, and then they have to be compliant after the contract is awarded. Have any questions, Shanda?
No, thank you.
Okay. So moving right along to finding subcontracting opportunities. So now, that the contract has been awarded, the prime contractor has a responsibility to be compliant with the subcontracting plan, because the plan has been made a material part of the contract. So when it's a material part of the contract, it involves performance. So the next slides are just some recommendations by the SBA of how to find subcontracting opportunities. So the SBA publishes a link to General Service Administration, Department of Defense, and we have our own directory, and it's basically information that we pull from the FPDS-NG system. It's basically a report that shows all of the contracts that were awarded by federal agencies that required a subcontracting plan. I do want to mention that the current directory that is there is sort of dated. I think it's from FY19, but we are working on trying to update that. I just don't know when it's going to be published or updated. So if you're interested in looking at those directories, there's a link to the SBA website. It's basically www.sba.gov/federal contracting, and it will take you to a wealth of information that's published out there, so that you can read about and learn about the SBA Prime Contracting Program and the SBA Subcontracting Program. But there's other ways to locate subcontracting opportunity. First and foremost, if you know of a prime contractor that has a federal contract with a subcontracting plan, you can register with their company. Many of the large business prime contractors have websites that invite companies to become suppliers. Not all of the companies that are awarded contracts have those type websites, but I do have some examples of some ones that you can take a look at and see. But if for some reason they don't have a company website, they may have, I mean, if they have a company website without a supplier portal, they may have a point of contact that you can reach out and call them, or a contact link where you can fill out a form and put your information, and hopefully someone will contact you. So, and another tool is the SBA Subcontracting Network, and I have some screen prints of that. And of course, the System for Award Management, which is the www.Federal Business Opportunity site. I don't know if any of you remember when it used to be FBO, it was a standalone application. So now the government has moved all of those like a one-stop shop behind sam.gov platform. So you have the Federal Business Opportunity website, you have the Federal Procurement Data System, just the standard reports and ad hoc reports. I think they're still working on additional information from that. There are a lot of systems that are going to be moved behind that platform to make it easier for you, the small business, to find out about things and not have to search various websites to figure out where you are or where you need to go to find this. So I think it's a great way that the government has made everything in one location. And then another way is to attend vendor outreaches and federal agency industry days and outreach events like this one. So that way you're kept in the know, and you're aware of what is going on and how you can market yourself and network. So these are just some of the ways.
Deborah, we do have a couple questions
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the chat. Okay, one, can a subcontractor without Cmmc be, I'm not quite sure what that question is. Rico, if you can retype that in the chat. Let me ask this other one, but Rico, if you can restate your question, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Another question from Linda Burton. They are registered in SAM, but she wants to know, will they also need to register with the Federal Contract Network?
The Federal Contract Network? Does she mean the federal business, the Federal Procurement Data System? What is it? I'm not really
Linda,
sure.
if you want to come off mute real quick, I'm not quite sure what.
Hi, did you say me, Shonda?
Linda Burton.
Linda Burton? Yes.
Regarding your question.
Yes. So I was just wanting to know, just based off the slide that I'm showing, there's a SBA Subcontracting Network.
Oh,
Is that something separate?
Okay, the SBA Subcontracting Network, that is a database where a prime contractor or anyone any other contractor that has a subcontracting opportunity or a notice of sources sought up, possibilities, they can publish their information there. It's not a requirement for the small business to register their information there. The only requirement, if you choose to, is a registration in this System for Award Management, sam.gov.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the one right above where it says register with federal contracts at their company website, is that just something separate than SAM, or is that SAM as well?
That's something separate than SAM. This is just a tool that, just a way that you guys can locate subcontracting opportunities.
Okay.
So, there's various prime contractors that are awarded, prime contracts, and most of them have a website or some type of platform, electronic platform that small businesses such as you can find out about their company and become possibly a potential supplier for them. So that's what
Okay,
that meant. Yeah.
thank you. I didn't
You're
know
welcome.
that, but thank you so much.
Oh,
for
you're
clearing that
welcome.
up.
And I'll show you some screen prints later on in the presentation as well.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Shonda.
Thank you. And I think there's a little more clarity on this second question.
Okay.
Is it still possible for a subcontractor to do business with DoD without Cmmc certification?
Now that is something that I would have to refer you to the DoD Office of Small Business Program or DCMA. Now, I know a little bit about CMMC, and there are certain requirements, depends on the type of contract you have and what the agency requires. So I would have to divert you to the DoD Office of Small Business Programs, and they will be able to give you a little bit more information on that. Does that help?
Okay. Someone else has typed in this in the chat.
Okay.
CMMC certification is not required yet, but their understanding is it will be coming up in 2025. They are still working on it, but you can be with the NIST 800-171 compliant, which would help position you for CMMC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do recall there was something about DoD. It was supposed to have been implemented, I think, last year or this year, and there was some type of concern. So that's great information to know. But I would still, as a small business, reach out to DoD just to make sure you're understanding everything, because they have a small business office there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So where I mentioned federal agencies, website, and small business professionals, most federal agencies have, with a buying authority has a small business professional within that agency. They are for civilian agencies, they're called the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business and Utilization. And for DoD, they're usually located in the Office of Small Business Programs, because that's what DoD classified their small business office as. So they have small business professionals within agencies that do almost verbatimly what the SBA Office of Government Contracting does. The only difference is that SBA has the overarching authority. So we're basically assisting and monitoring federal agencies with their compliance. So the U.S. General Service Administration has a great buying and selling website. So basically they have a forecast of all of their upcoming contracting opportunities. And you can view that tool, you can download it and keep it for future history, and you can look at that, and it has NAICS codes, contract types, place of performance. So you can begin your networking right there, and GSA may be of interest to you if you're interested in the federal supply schedules, or even if you're interested in possibly becoming a subcontractor to an already existing awardee. So this is just a great tool out there that can assist you with your market research, and also begin your networking to federal government contracting. So like GSA, other federal agencies have websites as well, but I wanted to show GSA, and I think I have one for the Social Security Administration. So GSA, from that site, that they really talked about contracting opportunity, I believe is more relevant to primes, but they also have subcontracting and other partnership information. So these various links will give you information on what the GSA has for subcontracting and how joint venture and contractor teaming arrangement. So it gives you an explanation of all of those and what GSA consider them as. So this is a great way to go out and research this. And also GSA has, I believe, an office in Great Lakes, and they also have one in Region 7, but I'm not really sure where it is. But they do have small business professionals that can assist you if you have questions. So like I said, the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization is within the Social Security Administration. Now they publish a subcontracting directory. And this is similar to what the SBA has published on their website, but they go a little bit further. They give you the contract number, the name of the contractor, the contact, and the project that is available. So basically, I want to point out that when a federal agency awards a federal contract to a prime and they have a subcontracting obligation, that contract is awarded under a NAICS code, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the subcontract requirements would be in the same industry. So I wanted to point that out because a lot of times there's confusion when it comes to subcontracting, where not only small businesses, but federal agencies believe that, okay, if the contract is awarded under this industry, then the subcontracts are going to be under that industry as well. But that's not the case, because when they fill out their subcontracting plan with those 15 elements, there is a portion that say list of supplies and services that you intend to subcontract. They don't necessarily have to assign a NAICS code there on the subcontracting plan, but they have to list the industry. And then you as a small business can possibly find out what the NAICS code is going to be. But again, when there is a subcontracting requirement, the prime contractor must assign a NAICS code so that it would be easier for you to self-certify your size. So these are some tips for marketing to prime contractors. It's not all inclusive, but it's just some recommendations. You can seek most subcontractors prior to submitting their own federal contract. I mean, to be realistic, we know that prime contractors begin their subcontracting long before the contract is awarded. It actually begins in the market research acquisition planning phase. But they have to continue to seek small business subcontractors throughout performance. So their market research has to be tactical and strategic all in one to find small businesses that were not, did not come into agreement with them when they were initially submitting their offer. So don't get discouraged by this statement. They should always be looking for small businesses in accordance with the contract. First and foremost, you want to emphasize your company's skills and expertise. Size and socioeconomic status really is secondary, as I mentioned earlier, because it really depends on what the requirement is. But the first thing, you want to emphasize your company's skills and experience. You want to let a prime contractor know because you've already done your homework, you know what their needs are, so you want to let them know what you can do to help them perform that federal contract. To be small, the subcontractor, like I said, must be small under the NAICS code that the prime assigns. And prime contractors can count a company toward all its subcontracting goals for which the subcontractor qualifies. So you can be a small business as well as a small disadvantaged business or a woman-owned small business or any of the others. The main thing is that you are a small business if you self-certified. But if you self-certified in other areas, the prime contractor can count that. So that would be an incentive for the prime contractor as well.
Deb,
Mhm.
we do have a couple more questions in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, when the prime contractor is looking, will they list the industry? They put on here SIC codes. I don't know if they mean NAIC, but
That's
when
a
the prime
standard
contractor is-
identification code, SIC.
No, yeah, but it's just old. And so when I saw SIC, I didn't know if she meant NAICS, but
Okay.
yeah, when the prime contractor is looking, will they list the industry? I'll just put SIC codes. That's what her question is.
Well, that depends, but I can tell you that the federal government went away from SIC codes. Some entities may still require, but for subcontracting purposes, it should be the NAICS code. Now, they could very well list the SIC code as well.
Okay, Linda, if you want to come off mute, you can real quick, and then we'll have another question after that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Just previously, Ms. Crumity, you mentioned that when they're looking, the prime contractors are needing a subcontractor on the contract. The industry code may not be the same. So their NAICS code may not be the same as the subcontractor. So I have an example here of a NAICS code, and then I put the SIC code because when it cross-references it in the NAICS system, and so it broke it down more. I run a notary company, so we're listed also under other non-legal services. So there's a NAICS code for that, but it may be someone is using a different NAICS code for that same like the same industry. So they may not ask for notary services flat out. They may just ask for like the other legal services, non-legal services, and that's a different NAICS code than notary services. So I was just wondering if they would use a code that is the 4-digit, but if they went away with that, then that answers it. But I was just trying to figure out how would we narrow it down as a small business to know what code that they're using for my business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The SBA, well, the federal government, we actually assign NAICS codes to, and the SBA has what we call a size standard table that you can use. And I think I understand what you're saying, that there's like you have a primary NAICS, and then you have like sub descriptions that NAICS codes, it could fall under if it has a 3-number series. But it typically should be the NAICS code that the prime contractor assigns. But I would think you would have a good discussion with the prime contractor to clarify,
Okay.
if they will be willing to accept that, or as part of the subcontract, does some of the work fall under that NAICS, or does some fall under primary NAICS? So that may be a discussion with the prime contractor, but it typically should be, if you're a small business, under that industry NAICS code that they have assigned. And they should have it assigned based on, the principal purpose of the subcontract. So when I say principal purpose, there may be some secondary, tasks that whereas that NAICS code may apply.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there are two other, thank you, Deborah, for answering that. Two other
You're
quick
welcome.
questions. Where can
Okay.
someone find the subcontracting plan information?
You mean the regulations for subcontracting plans or a template or what exactly?
Steve, if you want to bring a little further clarity to your question, you can come off mute. For a particular contract, where can one find the subcontracting plan information for a particular contract?
You will not find the actual subcontracting plan itself. The only way you can find out well, let me back up. The SBA Cmrs, we have like a portfolio that we run reports in the ESRS system based on summary subcontract awards. So we have a listing of prime contractors that have that have submitted subcontract reports in the ESRS system. We validate that against the federal procurement data system. So we do have a listing that way, but a current listing is not published on our website. But the latest listing is from 2019, and it would give you an example of what we would publish. So to show you a subcontract, it's a column that says subcontracting plan type. And then it will have an F for individual plan and G for a commercial plan. At least you'll know that a prime contractor has a plan because it will have the name of the prime contractor on that spreadsheet. So right now, that's the only way that you can know, but we don't physically publish the actual plans themselves.
Okay, and one last question. Thank you for that clarification. Why are some NAICS codes omitted from the set-aside programs for awards for $10,000 up to $750,000?
Why are some NAICS codes omitted?
From the set-aside programs for awards? I'm not
sure.
Yeah. Christopher, if you want to bring a little more clarity to that.
Is it a specific sort of socioeconomic category set aside?
Yeah, because usually I would think the next case would be, so
Yeah.
Christopher Cox, if you want to either type a little more clarity or come off mute really quickly.
Sure, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I went to speak to my PTAC officer, and he told me to go and look at the program, because small businesses have set asides from 10,000 to, and I went on there and downloaded the NAICS codes that allow the awards for, they have specific NAICS codes for the set asides, and my NAICS codes happen to be omitted for some reason. The 423450 and other NAICS codes in the 4250 NAICS codes are omitted from, and those are medical supplies distributors. They allow manufacturing, which is, in the 323133 category, but the 42, the distributors and suppliers of medical supplies, is eliminated, and I didn't understand why that was.
Oh, I can tell you why. I think I understand what you're saying. The 424 series and is considered wholesale NAICS as well as retail NAICS codes, and the federal government typically do not use those. So what the SBA does is we encourage the federal agencies to utilize and manufacture NAICS codes. So basically, the wholesale distributor or the retailer is selling an item or service. Just because you are a wholesaler and you're, reselling an item, so they need to try to assign a NAICS to whatever item you're reselling or wholesaling, if that makes sense. So that's why those 424 series and probably 423. There are some others that are listed on the SBA size standard table, and it has a code there that tells you, why those are not used. The SBA use those, but not for federal contracting.
Okay, I understand that, but we have companies like Cardinal Health and McKesson who are large supplier distributors, and they have large contracts with the federal government, and they certainly use those codes. How are they getting contracts? Are they using different codes?
Well, I can't answer that, but I can tell you what they should not be using. We do know that federal agencies are using wholesale and retail NAICS codes, but they shouldn't be. And the federal agencies assign the NAICS codes, and we, the SBA, we can't really, track everything at pre-award, but we do have our PCRs there looking at those acquisition packages, but most of them are not even sent to our PCRs. But if we were to see that before they were awarded, we would question that. But that is a policy.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to figure out how, the large companies are doing a lot of business with the federal government. As a matter of fact, they do offer us some subcontracting opportunities, but yet, those NAICS codes that we use, I don't know what NAICS codes they're using, but they certainly have large government contracts because they're large distributors. And, it makes it a little bit difficult for smaller companies like myself to, break into that realm if our codes aren't even accepted by the federal government. So what are we to do?
Right. Do you know of, is it with the same agency that they're accepting large businesses with that NAICS code? I mean, do you know that, or is there any way that?
No, I don't know that.
Okay.
But I'm saying clearly they're selling the same products that I have to the federal government. I don't know what NAICS codes they're using, but I'm saying it makes it awfully difficult for smaller companies like myself to be considered for a contract if my NAICS codes aren't even considered.
Right. So you say you spoke with your PTAC. Did you speak directly with a federal agency contracting person?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I would recommend if there is a federal agency requirement that you are interested in, and they have a manufacturing NAICS code and not a wholesale, and you are reselling that product or service, then I would reach out to them and say, make your case, because they shouldn't be, according to the regulations, they shouldn't be using wholesale and retail NAICS. And certainly you can make your case from that standpoint, I would think.
Now, on SAM, the Fed bid ops, I have entered those codes, and I do see them crop up periodically, for bidding opportunities. So it is, those NAICS codes are cropping up because
Yes.
I get bid notifications.
Yes, we know that. We do know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, we see those as well. And as we see them, we bring it to the agency's attention. As I started out in my presentation, we're advisors, and we know that federal agencies, set their NAICS code, they set their requirements, but we can only communicate, what the regulations have out there. And when we see that an agency is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, we bring it to their attention. And like I said, we have quite a few companies that are using wholesale NAICS and retail NAICS codes on their requirements. So that is something that the SBA is aware of. And but like I said, for you as a small business, it's important that you communicate, your concerns to that federal agency and ask them why are they assigning a wholesale NAICS code to their requirement when the regulation states that they shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deb.
You're welcome.
And we do have another question, but for the sake of time, we'll hold it for a little later because we're just getting a little great questions, great dialogue, wonderful. But for the sake of
Yes.
time, we will address it once we get further because we're about halfway through. So
Okay.
we will address that a little further down the road.
Sure.
Okay.
And Shannon, I just wanted to mention to you too, maybe in another segment, we could probably do a NAICS code presentation to the audience if you
Oh.
want to.
Awesome. Maybe next fiscal year.
Yep. Yep.
Next
All right.
fiscal, that'll be a great training.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay,
Moving
thank
right
you.
along. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is another company. Lockheed Martin is very large, and they have a great website for subcontracting opportunities. They have a supplier marketing portal, and they also have an outreach event where you can go and meet points of contacts. And these are usually buyers or supplier diversity managers within the company that has some type of buying authority and know what the company needs are. So this is Lockheed Martin has a very good website. Of course, they are very big in the business. They're one of the major DoD contractors. Then I have one also, American General, who's out of South Bend, Indiana. They have a very good website too for subcontracting opportunity. If you see across the top of the menu, there's an option for suppliers, and they also have a contact us. So I have a demonstration of suppliers. So I select a supplier from the top menu bar, and then it takes you to this part of their website, which is becoming a supplier. So this is a direct link if you're interested in AM General, and you would select this option at the bottom, which is new supplier application form, and then it will populate a form online. You fill out all the information, and it goes to their supplier diversity manager. So a lot of times there may be a contact number or a POC email on there. So I would just recommend at any time that you register for a supplier in their portal, that you follow up with them, because just like you, there are many other small businesses that are doing the same thing as well as large businesses. So it's important that once you register, just follow up to let them know that you're interested. So earlier I talked about the SBA Subcontracting Network. This is a network where prime contractors with a subcontracting reporting requirement, they can publish their solicitation on this platform. And this is web-based, it's accessible to the public. You can also, if you become a prime contractor, you would have to register for the system to post any solicitations or opportunities. So just in general, as a small business, you're seeking subcontracting opportunities, you're able to go to this subcontracting network. It's web-based. Here's a URL down here, and you can also access it from the SBA.gov website. So there's two ways that you can search for opportunities. The homepage has a map of the United States and the outlying territories. So you can use the drop-down menu here and select by whatever state that piques your interest, or you can select a territory. If you don't want to use the drop-down, you can certainly just click on one of these states and it'll take you to the next page. So I selected advanced search from the top menu bar because I wanted to get a little bit more specific to what I was looking for. I think I know the solicitation number, so I put the solicitation number here and I selected the state. You can also, if you know the solicitation, or if a prime contractor or even another small business have told you about subcontracting and you know the start date and what state it is, you can search. So there's various ways to search. I want to back up a little bit because you can also pull from this network a subcontracting directory. Let's see if I can go back. Yeah, you can also pull a business directory here from Subnet. It will list all of the businesses that have posted any information out here on this platform. So I selected solicitation and notice a sources sought directory. So what this does is bring up the solicitations by state or notice of sources sought by state. And this is the advanced search that I just went over. So now, I hope this is big enough, but I selected Texas from the map. And so this brought up all of the solicitations that were published under the state of Texas. As you can see, the solicitation numbers listed here. You have the business name, you have the place of performance and the performance start date. And here's the NAICS code. I don't think our system has a code for SIC, but they can certainly list it if necessary within the additional information section of their solicitation. It has a closing date, and what this means by closing date is that the prime contractor say, okay, I have this requirement. You have until the closing date to submit your bid or proposal to me. And that's the POC information, and that's the point of contact email address. So this is a great example of how of information that should be entered into the system. So if you select a solicitation link from this side, it will take you to, I'm sorry, let me back up. This is for Indiana. Then I'll have the example of what a solicitation looked like. That was Texas on the previous one, and now this is in Indiana. And as you can see, Indiana doesn't have as many solicitations posted out there, but that doesn't mean the prime contractors in the state of Indiana that has a subcontracting plan doesn't have a requirement. It's just that they may not be using our tool because it's not mandated by a prime contractor to use this database, but it's highly encouraged because a lot of small businesses can have access to this. So in the state of Indiana, I selected this solicitation. And when you do that, it will bring you to all of the information that's required. This is security information and the NAICS code. It actually gives a description of what the NAICS code is. And it gives you, again, the point of contact. The place of performance is 3 states here, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in Indiana. And then there's a solicitation. And then on that solicitation page on the previous slide, there was a link there. There was a document. So I selected that link, and this is additional information that is stated. So it talks about the estimated ranges of payment, and subcontractor must be pre-qualified. So this is something good that they put here, because if you're not pre-qualified, whatever that may be, then you probably shouldn't submit an offer. You shouldn't waste your time on a bid or an offer, but it's good to contact the POC to make sure that you understand all of the requirements of the solicitation. So I also mentioned sam.gov is a way that you can find out about contracting opportunities and industry days and outreaches. Sam.gov is actually the contract opportunities is the old system federal business opportunity. And that is where federal agencies publish small business events, requests for information, requests for quotes, and special notices, or anything that is of value for the public to know. So I selected contracting opportunities, and this contract opportunity is a small business event. It's a small business roundtable. Now, what I don't know from this is that it's a special notice. It's the original, but I don't know if there's been previous communications or if there's an already selected pool of small businesses. And you probably would not know that either. So you would find out who the point of contact is by selecting the contact information, and then reach out and inquire if you think this is something that you're interested in performing, either as a prime contractor or teaming with another small, or just teaming with a large business as a subcontractor. And this too has a NAICS code assigned to it. So you've done your homework, you've done your market research, you have your capability statement ready, and you have a prime contractor that you're ready to subcontract with, and they're getting ready to award the contract. So what's next? And I can stop here, Shannon, to see if there's any questions right now.
There are, I was gonna wait, but since you've asked, there
Okay.
are. Is there a way to only search by NAICS code? And I don't know what this would
Subnet.
be helpful for entities that are not confined to work in their residential state.
Yes, I believe that the application can search by NAICS codes too. You can see what has been published by NAICS code, I believe. And yes, you do, just because you're in your business is located in one state doesn't necessarily mean you can't look for other opportunities in other states. And it really depends on the requirement. And most requirements don't necessarily have a location specification that I'm aware of, but it could.
Okay.
Yeah.
This person, Rico, is saying that she's not finding that.
She's not finding what?
That the ability to search by NAICS code?
It's not there. Well, maybe not. I thought it was an option on there where you can select a NAICS and search when you do the advanced search.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you can put, yeah, it's an advanced search option. But
She
who
said
is
she'll
this,
try
Rico?
again.
Yeah, and certainly you can call me afterwards and we could possibly talk about it, because I know it was there before, but I know that system is being revamped constantly, so it may not be there.
Okay, and one last one. This one is a little long. Hang on, I'm trying to scroll back up. All right, I'm
Okay.
looking at the most recent spreadsheet listing the federal prime contractors with a subcontracting plan. The
Mhm.
list is intended to be used for subcontractors to investigate opportunities. However, most of the information for NAICS code 488510 is dated. Should they assume that the prime contractors will receive more contracts going forward that they can market to them?
Well, I can't really say without knowing the period of performance of that contract and what type of contract was awarded. Certainly, if they want to reach out to that prime, to ask, then I would definitely encourage that. But the only way that I would know what the period of performance was is that I will have to go into the system to look and see.
Okay.
And
Okay.
like I said, that spreadsheet is from I think FY 2019. So I'm pretty sure that the system has been updated and we don't have that information published out there yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and that's it for now. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So these are just some advisory statements that the SBA recommend to you as a small business before you sign on the dotted line of a subcontract. That you should understand the type of subcontract that has been awarded by the prime contractor. Even though the subcontract requirement may not be in the same industry, you still want to have an understanding of the prime contract. Sometimes the prime contractor may share that information with you, or they may not. But if they have if you're awarded a subcontract on their prime, they have to give you the subcontract number as well as they have to give you the prime contract number, as well as you will be assigned a subcontract number. Because if you are reporting, you want to know that information, but the only time that's really relevant is that you're other than small business. But even as a small business subcontractor, you want to know that information because you can go out there and look at the contract. So you want to know what type of subcontract you have. A lot of times, large business primes may want to establish a basic ordering agreement with you or a blanket purchase agreement where your subcontract agreement states that they will come to your company when there is a requirement for this specific service or product. So you want to be familiar with the terms and conditions of your subcontract. You want to know the scope of work, when it's required, if there's any specification of warranties, any clearance required. So, what are the delivery for service and products, making sure that you're meeting those delivery schedules. You want to know if there's a dispute clause in your subcontract, and also if there is a termination for convenience clause in your subcontract, and definitely the payment terms. Termination for convenience clause is very important in a subcontract as a small business. And the reason I say that is if for some reason you as a small business believe that you may not be able to complete the subcontract for whatever reason, you notify the prime contractor and you guys, work it out, negotiate it, and they will terminate your subcontract for convenience. It's much better than having your contract terminated for default. So those are some things that you want to consider when you sign for a subcontract. I know some subcontracts are verbal agreements, but this is really for written subcontract agreements. If you're not familiar with it, you can seek assistance from the OSBU or OSBPs, your PTAC, or your local CMR. But definitely before you sign a subcontract, if you have legal counsel, please consult with them first. So I had a slide here, break for questions. Shanna, do you want me to move on or?
Yes, we can keep going.
Okay. So these next slides are dealing with payment concerns as a small business because here recently the SBA has been getting some calls about small businesses stating they haven't been paid by their prime contractor. So it's two instances where the situation may arise. So small business federal subcontractor that is not being paid or not being paid on time. Now this situation applies to small business prime and large business. So you want to ensure the services that you were required to perform were performed satisfactory, that you met the delivery schedule, and it was within cost. So basically, that's the first thing that you want to do before you say that you are not paid for your subcontract. You want to know upfront the subcontract written payment terms. So you want to make sure that the payment terms are listed in your subcontract and that if the prime contractor is not within those terms, then you have the right to move forward. Then you want to review this dispute clauses in the subcontract agreement. Many contractors give instructions in the subcontract on how to resolve disputes or issues such as payment problems, work performance issues, or modifications to the subcontract. A lot of times that's in the fine print of the agreement. So you want to make sure you read everything in your agreement. So also you want to maintain adequate records of all contractual obligations and keep a chronology of events that identifies critical dates and actions taken. So what that means is there was some type of work delay or stoppage. You want to make sure you have all the documentations to show, where you were still performing in accordance with the terms and conditions of the subcontract. You want to approach the customer with your payment issue, provide evidence, and seek resolution, including a date you will be paid. And then if the customer still fails to pay you, the subcontractor may want to consider obtaining a legal representative to assist with your payment dispute, because at that point, it becomes a payment dispute between you and the prime contractor. Federal agencies have a contractual agreement with the prime contractor. Except as noted on the next slides, except in very limited instances, contracting officers do not have privity of contract with subcontractors. So a subcontractor does not have many tools available when payment issues arrive. Typically, when you have a prime contractor and a subcontractor, and this is mostly for small businesses, the contracting officer can't engage in that dispute. Can't say, well, okay, prime contractor, you haven't paid this subcontractor. Now, there is a clause that states prime contract, small business subcontractors should be paid within this amount of time, but it's still a dispute that has to be resolved between the prime contractor and the subcontractor. Now, when you are a subcontractor to a prime contractor with a subcontracting plan, it's a little bit different. You can notify the contracting officer in writing that you have not been paid or have not been paid on time. That is something new that was incorporated into the subcontracting plan. It requires that a federal prime contractor with a small business subcontracting plan notifies the CO in writing when they make a reduced or untimely payment to a small business subcontractor. A prime contractor with a subcontracting plan cannot prohibit you from discussing a utilization issue with the CO. And you want to maintain all correspondence between you, the prime contractor, and the CO. It is up to the CO to determine if the contractor is in violation of the FAR, which states that a prime contractor's failure to pay a small business subcontractor in accordance with the terms and conditions. Remember, you got to make sure that the terms and conditions are in place, that they are in violation of prime contractors' failure to act in good faith of the small business subcontracting plan. You want to advise the SBA Cmr covering that state where your company is physically located. And again, you can find that from the link that's published on our website. So small business that is not being utilized in the same scope, amount, or quality that the prime used in preparing and submitting a bid or proposal. So you have a prime contractor that has a small business subcontracting plan. So the contract, you will contact the prime contractor to discuss why your company is not being utilized. So this, what I mean by utilize is that you have prepared the proposal. They had your company listed as performing these tasks, and at this time, and now the contract has been awarded, and you have not been utilized for another service. So you want to be open to hearing the reason why your company has not been awarded a subcontract. Again, you want to make sure that you've read the subcontract agreement and understand it. There are a variety of valid reasons that you should explore before a complaint is made, such as contract probably is not at its mature point where your product or service is required, or it's a multiple award IDIQ whereby the contractor did not win the order that was required for your product or service. So there could be various instances as to why you have not received a subcontract. So you really want to understand the type of contract and your subcontract agreement. If the response is unsatisfactory from the prime, then you contact the contracting officer and provide the following. You want to give them, what was discussed between you and the prime. You want to tell the CO the reason why you believe the prime did not use you. And you need evidence that the prime contractor used your pricing or cost information or technical expertise in preparing a bid or proposal. So you need to have that so that when you talk to the contracting officer. I just want to point out that responding to a request for quote does not constitute assistance in preparing a bid or proposal. You just want to have evidence that you did, and there should be some indication, of your company name somewhere in that bid or proposal, and also maybe listed on the subcontracting plan. So just note, a prime contractor with a subcontracting plan cannot prohibit you to talk to a CEO about utilization. Just remember that. So if you're ever awarded a subcontract from a prime with a subcontracting plan, and you're not being utilized and you have all of the supporting documentation, you have the right to talk to the contracting officer of that agency that awarded that prime contract. So when advising an SBA Cmr, please provide the following information: the name and address of the prime contractor, a brief description of the payment issue and what actions have been taken, the prime contract number and the subcontract number. The more information that you can provide to us, the better we'll understand your concerns and try to help you resolve your issue. And that concludes my presentation. I just want to say and recommend that you continue to stay engaged and always be contract ready if federal contracting is the path for you, if not as a prime, as a subcontractor. And if you have any additional questions or want to have some type of counseling session, I have my contact information here on the screen. You're welcome to send me an email or call me. And now I'll just open the door for any additional questions, or we can just have some interactive discussions, Chandler, or however you want to proceed.
I think that's a great, thank you so much.
You're
Wonderful
welcome.
presentation, such great information. And I think all of our participants have found that it's been very helpful. Linda, if you want to go ahead and come off, her question is, can a subcontract require a retainer from the prime contractor?
Can a subcontractor require a retainer?
I think that should be the other way around. Don't you mean, should a prime contractor? Linda,
Well,
if you,
yeah, sure. I was being like, we're a small business. We would be a small business within a, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, there you go. Being a small business, wouldn't we be the subcontractor to the primary contractor who secured the initial contract? This was going
Yeah.
back to when you were talking about payment and there being issues of payment. Being on the contract as a subcontractor versus not being on the contract listed. So is there a situation if we're not listed as a subcontractor to protect us and to ensure payment? Is that something that we would like, we can draw up with our own legal counsel? You know what I mean? Is that something that we can bring to the table, or is that not customary for us to negotiate how we're paid?
If I'm understanding you correctly, you don't necessarily have to be listed on the prime contractor's subcontracting plan or assist them with a proposal to have a payment issue. Usually on a subcontract agreement, most companies have, the terms and condition and any payment concerns. How you got that, it should tell you how you're going to be paid and what time frame. Certainly as a small business, if you have legal representation and you want them to review those terms and conditions before you sign that subcontract with the prime, I would certainly recommend that.
Okay. And so is this a period where there could be a negotiation? Or
I would think payment terms are negotiable. I would think it all depends on the prime contractor. Most prime contractors might try to say, well, the federal government has not paid me. I can't pay you. That should not be the case.
Okay.
So, but it is negotiable, I would think, and that would be, a discussion with you as a subcontractor and that prime that, is considering you for an award.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One little add on there. And
okay, no
maybe
problem.
this is redundant. But so if we're just being hired on by a company, let's say I'm not involved in the contract in any way, and so I'm just a notary company marketing myself to this particular business that has secured a contract, then outside of that, then I'm just able to operate business as usual, right? It's not since I have nothing to do with the contract. As far as, payment goes, okay, the government didn't pay me, so I can't pay you. That only applies if I'm within the contract. Does that make sense?
So it sounds like you are not a subcontractor, right?
Yes. No,
So
I'm
you,
not.
are you a prime contractor on the federal contract, or are you assisting a prime contractor in any way?
I am, right now, we're just a vendor for a particular agency that receives government funding. So we're not on a contract with them. They're just, using our services. So we have a fee schedule that we send out to them. We have, we negotiate our price with them. So we're outside of whatever contract that they may be receiving. So my question was, if I'm not on a contract, are we operating in that way? Like just my normal business practices?
I can't really answer because it sounds like what you just presented is that you're providing a service to a prime contractor
Yes.
on a fee basis. Is it related to a federal contract, or is it a grant or something? Or do you know if they have a subcontracting requirement? I really don't know. So
That I don't know.
Yeah, and
They
so-
just asked that we be their vendor. So I
Okay.
believe they're into some form of contract with the government to do housing, not just here, but in other states. So we're handling their closings. So we're a full service mobile notary company, but we just happen to make that connection, not on a
Mhm.
contract.
Mhm. So is that maybe at the state level, and
Okay.
sometimes the state government requirements are a little bit different than federal.
Okay.
So that
Okay, I
may be a
didn't know
state
the
requirement.
difference. Okay.
Yeah.
That answers it. Thank
Oh,
you. Sorry about
Okay, you're
that.
welcome. That's okay. I don't quite have all the information, so that's just my assumption. And certainly, we can talk later. If you wanna call me to give me a little bit more
Absolutely.
specifics.
I
Okay,
appreciate it. Thank
sure.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there are any additional questions in the chat, you can definitely put them in there. But again, I want to say thank you to Ms. Deborah Crumity for such an informative presentation. And I'm always filled with tons of information. Definitely want to make sure you go back to listen to this. Also, you can have access to the slides, access to the link for the actual recording. And then also the slides will be posted again on the Matchmaker website and the PTAC website. So Sharon, I know you put it in there earlier, but if you could type those websites in the chat again, you can access everything. And then there's Deborah's contact information. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. Again, a great session. I love the interactive. Sometimes
I do
not
too.
having a webinar with too many people can actually be so beneficial because it may allow you more time to interact or ask questions, or like today, we allowed some of you to come off mute, and we don't necessarily always do that. So thank you. In the chat, you'll see the websites for the Ohio Business Matchmaker and for the PTAC. So the recording link will be posted in both places, as well as the slides. Our last webinar for this preliminary webinar series is this afternoon. So both Sharon and I will be on, starts at 1 o'clock. So it's going to be on a mentor protege. We'll give an overview about the mentor protege program that the SBA has. And so that'll be about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And then we will have an actual panel of 2 mentor protege relationships, 2 mentors and 2 proteges, and actually another protege. She is in a mentor protege relationship. It's relatively new, but she's going to give her feedback of her journey on becoming a protege. So if you're interested in mentor-protege relationships, and a lot of those have turned into joint venture relationships, you definitely don't want to miss that. From 1 to 3 today, if you have not signed up, I think you should have already gone to the website to register. I don't want to get in trouble. So again, that will be this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Hopefully you're signed up and you can join us. So again, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you again, Deborah.
You're
And
welcome.
hopefully we can look to bring about that training focused on NAICS codes and some other things next fiscal year. We always look to do something new. And I think I can volunteer Sharon Hopkins and OU PTAC team. Well, this is what we do as our part of our government contracting series and our partnership that we have with the PTAC, our local Columbus SBA. We love working with them as partners. And a lot of times they speak up for us. So I think next fiscal year, we can look at doing that type of training.
Definitely.
Without further ado, everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time. And hopefully we'll see you this afternoon.